A very good morning once again, and welcome to the interview segment of the program this morning on ITV. We will be looking at issues that borders on Nigeria's economy. And first of all, in the last 2 weeks, the federal government, the President Muhammadu Buhari, sent a letter to the Senate seeking the screening and confirmation of the governor of Central Bank for a second tenure of 5 years, and that was concluded last week. And for the very first time in a long time, we're having a central bank governor, spend 2 consecutive tenures of 5 years. Such is the case of Governor Emefiele. And, so many concerns are coming up. We will be looking at all these issues. And I have in the studio a professor of economics, Professor Ken Ife. Welcome to our studio this morning.
Thank you very much.
It's a privilege
Thank
having
you for
you here
inviting me.
this morning. Let's now take a look, as we look at the economy. First of all, let's have an assessment, your own assessment of the performance of the governor of Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, and whether he deserves a second term as, approved by President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yeah, there's a compelling case for his reappointment, without a doubt. And it's predicated on how robust their performance had been over the last 4 years. And I can tell you that the bank itself has shown very strong, effective, and efficient macroeconomic leadership in the country. And in 2015, 2016, they stood out as against the whirlwind of global economic recession. And then from February 2017, we had an economic recovery and growth plan, which every development partner was saying, look, you are in recession, we want to see your plan to come out of recession and to grow the economy. So we had a plan. And in that particular plan, which I very much admire, it has what I would describe as macroeconomic handshake. All the policyholders in the macroeconomy actually joined forces, and the leadership was actually coming from Central Bank. So most of the things that were expected to be achieved in those 6 pillars and 60 policy action areas broken down into performance indicators, they were on course. They were delivering much of what was expected of them. And people like Debt Management Office was doing what was expected of them. The PEBEC, as you know, the ease of doing business, they were also delivering on their tasks. So that was the signal was very strong coming from CBN. But then, all things are never equal. Their primary responsibility, without a doubt, is to maintain macroeconomic stability through financial system stability and forex stability and all of that. But they also have a secondary role, which is to promote sustainable economic development. Now the bank was forced to intervene massively in the real sector because our confidence in the financial system to deliver and even on the fiscal side of things to deliver was misplaced. So I can understand why the intervention is massive and purposeful, because on one hand, they were forced to a position where what we were receiving as forex revenue was only $1 billion a month. And you had, a hungry,
so many needs.
Trading community that is demanding $4.7 billion every month.
So when you are bringing in $1 billion.
And they haven't got the money. So he did all sorts of things that he could do in macroeconomic, macroprudential measures. He did capital account controls. He tried all that. It didn't work. Then he had to go to demand management. And that's where you got these 41 items. All right? Yeah. But he didn't stop there. It's one thing to restrict, and he didn't ban, he just restricted the forex to them. They can use their own money. So it's one thing to restrict, it's another thing to actually do backward integration in practice. So what he now did was he targeted on some value chains and then did end-to-end intervention in those value chains. You saw rice, you saw sorghum, millet, and then progressively moving into sesame seed, and others are coming in, palm oil and all that. And intervention, when I say end-to-end, it means starting from grains, from seed technology, then input, production, processing, and all the way to market, which means that you have to look at quality infrastructure if you are heading out to international market. So what it is now, it has developed a sustainable capacity to produce that which is going to complement the other measures to ensure that we are reducing the import of rice and some of these. So that was purposeful, and that was a very different. And then the second characteristics of that intervention in agriculture is the fact that it is pro-poor. Pro-poor in the sense that it's not just about commercial farmers that own 5,000 hectares or 1,000 hectares, but it is anchor. You use anchor or aggregators to work with thousands of subsistence farmers so that you can cascade training to them, supply them input, supply them seeds, and then offtake all their produce. So that outgrower scheme resonated with our agricultural production system. And so that was why it was very successful. And is now moving into the other service sectors to look at creative and cultural industry, which is an area where we have latent comparative advantage. And so we need to see more of those actions. And then also hope that the financial institutions will meet us halfway. But it hasn't been an easy going fight. It hasn't been easy to get the banks that are primarily there to aggregate our deposits and then package it and lend it to the SMEs, and so that they can produce and widen and strengthen the base of our economic pyramid.
Okay, why the banks are not coming forth? You know, there is a new creation of the central bank now. You know, talking about NISA Microfinance Bank. We have about 7 of them already launched, and they have a target to get to 50 at the end of the year, and maybe spread to 774 local government, where they would lend, you know, to the real sector at single-digit rate. Is this in the right direction? And would this help to, you know, support the growth we need, since they're lending to the micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises?
Is the right step in the right direction. To bring in NISA is to de-risk the agricultural lending. That is the purpose. And to take it in connection with the micros is to hit the ground running. So it is the right step in the right direction.
Okay, now the lending at single-digit rate. We have lending that, you know, the bank will tell you the interest rate is 14%, but you have banks doing 24, 26. Some banks even do 32. You know, when you look at, when you analyze it very well. Now, if we have a lending, you know, coming from a particular microfinance bank at a single-digit rate, do you think this will help? And if it will help, don't you think it will rid away, you know, competition from other microfinance banks? It will stiffen them out of the economy.
No, I don't think so. We need as much lending sources as possible. And in fact, the CBN has created a window that allows the commercial banks to access their cash reserve ratios that they hold with the bank. They have over 4 trillion naira cash reserve ratio, their deposits in the central bank, that is not earning them a dime. And the bank and CBN says to them, if you can lend a single digit at 9% for 7 years or more, and with moratorium, come and take the money and do so. And the question is, the jury is out on the extent to which the commercial banks are responding.
The response is not rapid,
ridiculous.
As
and we're talking about huge money here.
Or 4 trillion naira.
To be able to activate our base of the economic pyramid. And it worries me. It worries me that what we see is increased tempo of activity in the side of the banks chasing treasury bills and all of that. Treasury bills are just money you are lending to government to consume It's not money you are lending to the real sector to produce. And so we are back to that cycle again. We came out from Treasury single account, where government was dumping money with commercial banks at 0 interest and turning back to borrow back from them at 15%. You know, we'll stop that. And then they are now through, it's unbelievable. And I'm sure CBN is going to have to do something about this.
Okay, in the last
Just to restrict.
Yes, in the last MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee was saying they are restricting the commercial banks, you know, from getting access to those avenues and to leave it for those who are, you know, meant to get access to it. But now, looking at the indices, the economic indices, is Nigeria likely, you know, to slide into recession? I'm asking this question because there is so much concern on the social media, and you know we have a lot of analysts on the social media who call themselves economic analysts but cannot prove their worth. Is Nigeria, looking at the indices from your own perspective, as Nigeria slide into recession, or will it slide to recession very soon?
I don't see the prospect. I do not see the prospect that even in this current regime that is going to run for 4 years, that Nigeria will slide into recession. I don't see the prospect. There are challenges on our growth. We have dropped from 2.37 to 2.0. But it's neither here nor there, because that is, we expect a slight drop in this cycle. But as we move forward, especially in the third cycle, we will head about 2.5 or more %. So you compare what your growth is today and what it was correspondingly a year before. So you see that we are still ticking over. Then the second thing is we have a policy continuity, which is what voting for the the CBN governor means to the sectors. And then you now saw how the capital market responded to that, favorable. You saw how the investment flows, portfolio investment, and there was all positive signals that we got, which means that the investors are voting for continuity. And they've also seen that there has been financial system stability over time, and inflation is normalized. It could go, in fact, if you look at the core inflation figure, it's actually hit single digit. It is the stubborn food basket sub-index that is at 11.37 or 13.7 stuff. That is the one that is still keeping it up. Otherwise, we've already virtually hit single digit. But we still remain hopeful that we will. There are other policies that I know that in this current dispensation are going to kick in a very forceful way. For example, the agriculture thing you mentioned, we're going to expect more action, because as a matter of fact, the agroecological footprint in the country is shrinking and shrinking every day, because of all the conflict in the northeast, in the north central, conflict. In north central is conflict of our agricultural system. You have the livestock system,
and then we're
fighting against the crop production system.
We're having the
and then you have
northwest,
which is banditry.
Yeah.
And of course, you have a persisting one in the south, kidnapping and all sorts of things, and militants and all that. But then, what you do in a case like this, where our agricultural productivity and growth rate must exceed the population growth rate. Population growth rate is 3.2%. And so both our GDP growth rate and the agricultural growth rate must exceed that 3.2 for us to be in a comfort zone. And so the way to do this is, one, to clear some new lands. We have 43 million hectares of virgin forest that can be cleared, a bit of it, even if it's 1 million. The second one is to intensify the mechanization in the existing footprint. So that means that our current tractor density is only 3 tractors in 1,000 hectares, compared to 300 that is recommended. So we need to have more tractors in a leasing style that will hit the ground. I'm talking about substantial number. and used much more profitably and accessibly to the farmers who are growing there. And don't forget that when you begin to clear new lands and you disturb existing lands and then make them more tractorable, then you are creating opportunity for more commercial farming. It's so difficult to go to 80% of our subsistence farming system and tell them to do the way the lands are, you know, you take it easy. You take it easy with them. Try and integrate them into the outgrower scheme that are currently being supported by Anchor Borrowers Program, and let life work. After all, if you go to Kebbi, you see 1,000 farmers working on one hectare. It's the same thing. It's actually more to have 1,000 farmers working on one hectare, which is 1,000 hectares. Actually going to be more profitable than one man doing 1,000 hectares and trying to employ 500 farmers. You know, you've got to be very careful what you do there. So that's what I'm saying. We're going to see more on agriculture.
Okay, now in case there is a global recession, which so many people are predicting, that there's likely to be a global recession. And maybe not in the immediate, but that it is looming already. Now, if we have this, when we have a foreign reserve, our external reserves at 45 billion, would Nigeria be able to stand the shocks if this happened, maybe for a period of 6 months or 1 year at 45 billion, not 68 as we had in 2008? Will we be able to stand the shock and you know, drive our way through?
Well, there was a time, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when our reserve came down to 28 billion. Nothing happened. We still came out of recession. The thing is, there's always recession in somewhere or the other in the country, in the world at any one time. Not everybody's growing at the same time. Some are growing, some are recessing. That's one. Now, number two, the current clamor of fear of recession seems to be born out of two things: the fluctuations in the price of oil and the fear that it might come down again to about $30 in non-distant future. Two is the U.S. global
trade war with China.
Now, it has impact. Nobody wins a trade war. Both U.S. and China are taking a hit. Unemployment is hitting both of them. Growth there's some growth and there's some unemployment. So there are, you know, in America, there's a flip side. And in the end of the day, the consumers are going to take about $800 extra expenditure a year per family. So
and the developing and emerging economies are feeling the heat.
That's right. Now, but what it is, the opportunity that gives Nigeria is this. Trump has moved the tariff on $200 billion products coming from China. He's moved the tariff from 10% to 25%. Now, this is the time for Nigeria to go to China. You know, when we are going to do the selling bond, don't you have the CBN governor and you have the Minister for Finance and all these guys, all of them go together there? Why don't we do that to China now? Go to China with our manufacturers in Kanu, Lagos, Ibadan, Aba, Kaduna. Take those manufacturers, take all those big-time importers that are importing from China and dumping in our country. Take them with you. And then go to China, visit 4, 5 most industrialized sites in China where you know they're getting more. And say to them, we want to do this business with, and then take all the 34 executive directors of the NEPZA, the free trade zones with you. And say to them, look, we have a compelling case for you to do more business, even with America. Now, if you try to ship things from China to America, you pay 25% duty. If you bring this stuff here and assemble them in our parks, you don't even pay tax for 10 years, 5 years to 10 years. We guarantee you at least 40% of what you produce. We are 201 million people. You can move the rest of it to Africa, but much more importantly, you can send all these products to America under the AGOA as zero tariff.
From Nigeria to America.
To America on zero tariff.
So it means you're not cashing in. It means you're not cashing in.
No, we're not cashing in.
This trade war between US and China.
It's not a one-man talk. They have to walk the talk by going, because when you go with this team, They will be received by their corresponding officers in China. So you see that, so they will talk government to government and they reassure these people that if they are blessed by Chinese government to come into Nigeria, we will respect, and we have all the tools now. We have currency swap with China. We don't have to go via dollar to Chinese yuan. We are here to stay.
And
they are building a lot of infrastructure in Nigeria. So it makes sense. We are not saying to them, go anywhere and everywhere and establish, just go to the free trade zones. You will not pay tax. You are not going to force your labor on, you will have some labor here. But you know, all the things are relaxed in the free trade zones. And I tell you, you're going to see transformation going to happen to our economy. Okay. Because it's a win-win for China and Nigeria.
Okay, it's going to be a win-win for China and Nigeria if Nigeria cash in on the trade war between the U.S. and China, which the president has moved from 10% to 25%. That's massive tax, about a quarter already going into taxes. And China is also doing the same on the other side. It's time for Nigeria to act now, and those words are coming from a professor of economics, Professor Ken Ife. He has been with us on the program talking to us about Nigeria's economy and if there is any likelihood that the economy will slip into recession. Now, for certainty, before we discuss another topic briefly, for certainty, for those who are saying Nigeria's economy will slide into recession, I would like you to use maybe 2 minutes to talk to them. Is this news favorable for Nigeria's economy that is growing at just 2%? Or is there any likelihood for certainty that Nigeria's economy will slide into recession so they can get the message from you?
I do not see the prospect that we are going to slide into recession. The thing is, the election had the potential to do more damage to our economy because of influx of currency and all of that, but it didn't happen. The minimum wage is going to be paid soon. It's not going to cost anything. I've heard people saying, prophets of doom, saying that inflation is going to rise. Now lie. It's not going to happen. Because people are owing so much money. Yeah. Some of these people have not paid their rents for 1 year, 2 years. So when they receive this minimum wage, there is a sink where they're going to start paying all the arrears of bills. Nobody's ready for conspicuous consumption. They won't have the balance left to do all that. The government will withstand that because they're going to have more efficiency scrutiny on some of our MDAs so that you can actually, not only the ghost workers, but they're going to expand the revenue base. So the government doesn't need to borrow that money to pay that wage. So collect the money that is due to you. If you look at the FRC, which is the Fiscal Revenue Commission, the Responsibility Commission, they have developed a template, operating surplus template, which they should use, the MDAs, 122 MDAs should use to pay what is due to government, 80% of their revenue every month into the government's coffers. The fact is that they're not doing it. For 11 years, all that they have collected is 1.4 trillion naira. They can get that 1.4 trillion naira a year if they start operating that. So what I say to the government in the second term, if you remember what you did in the onset of your first term, you religiously focus on Treasury single account and got it off these commercial banks and put the money right into your government, and we got over 2 trillion. Do the same for FRC now. Just do that now. You will see that you have less propensity to borrow money domestically and foreign. You will still need to borrow for infrastructure, but you have less appetite for borrowing because there will be more revenue. And then all this rumor mongering that we are in financial debt crisis. We are not in debt crisis. We have substantial headroom. But what we are in is revenue crisis. So this is your key revenue strategy, to open up government revenue. Of course, you can see that FIRS is trying to have moved in 1 year, moved the tax base from 20 million to 35 million people and organizations. So that they have tried, and you can only ask them to do more. But don't forget that we are a low tax constituency in Nigeria. That's why one of the reasons why investors are interested in Nigeria. You pay minimal tax, VAT just 5%. In many average in Africa is 15%, Ghana 18%, South Africa. So, you know, we're a low tax constituency. Whilst we are going to have to look at it and see where, as long as you keep food out of the VAT thing, you can find where luxury items, where you can, you know, increase the thing, increase the revenue. Because the tax to GDP revenue is only 6%.
6%.
But it's about 18%. In Ghana, 22% in South Africa. So there are headrooms for tax increases and revenue increases. So that's what I say. I don't see how recession comes into this picture. You know, we are going to have a much more robust economy this time round because the lessons have been learned in the last 4 years and buffers are being built. My only concern, though, is the budget. One is I can't understand why budgets are delayed for 6-7 months. And it has happened 4 times. 2, we need to revisit. You can't have $60 per barrel as a budget benchmark. When the prediction is that the average price for crude this year, that's the American Energy Information Agency, that the average price will be $62. And that is $60, that's what you put in your budget. Last year it was $71. So there was good headroom, 851, 55, there was a big headroom now. Now there is none. And it is from this headroom that we have accretion to our excess crude account.
Excess crude account.
And some to the reserves. So that's the bit, that worries me a little bit, you know.
Okay, now before I let you go, Prof, there's a trending issue, a worrying issue. Just like 2 to 3 years ago, we had the issue of MMM, which was described as a Ponzi scheme and a pyramid, where you take from Peter to pay Paul until it crashed. And we saw Nigeria lose about 18 billion. That is the ones that were known. Now there's another scheme again looming called Loom Money Nigeria, and so many Nigerians are getting into it. So many Nigerians are keen into it. Now, we want you to speak to this issue of pyramid schemes. Is it good for Nigerians to invest in it, and is it even sustainable, looking at the history of Ponzi schemes?
Well, the thing is that people have choice, and you cannot exclude greed in people's financial calculus. There are people who do not want to work for their money, and they just want to use money to make money. These financial pyramids, we've had many of those in the past, and people got burnt. And I have to tell you that it takes two to tango. Even in the 419, it takes two to tango. You have to be greedy, and somebody exploits your greed and makes you an offer. And then you jump into the boat, and the boat sails. And this is exactly what is going on with these financial pyramids. They go on, and after a while, the bubble will burst. So I think there are more important, sustainable ways to use your money and invest in business than to do, what you described it. I forgot how you described it.
They say Loom Nigeria. You have to pay 1,000 naira or 13,000 or 40,000, and you have about 22 people coming behind you to cash in on one person. And
it's financial pyramid, and the bubble gets burst, and then somebody gets hurt in the process.
Okay, it's financial pyramid, and the bubble gets burst, and somebody gets hurt. Are you going to be the one that will get hurt in the process? That's the explanation given by Prof. And Prof, thank you so much for being with us.
Always my pleasure.
On the program. You've cleared so many issues, so many economic issues that were raised on this program, and we do thank you sincerely, and we hope that when next we invite you, you'll be here with us in the studio. Okay.